just spotted a monster buck with 5 does at the top of the mountain. I climbed up and got him. Oh, I'm gonna die. I haven't got my hands on him yet. This went down like 30 seconds ago. I'll take you to him in a minute.
All right, I'm still alive, still here, still alive. Full-on winter blizzard out there, -8 or -10 or something, I don't know. Lucky I got that deer when I did yesterday. Lucky. But I'll give an update. I'll give the hunt update at the end. All right, end of this video. So there's a lot of people here that don't have any interest in that. But I think I might have posted on the community page about my snow boots that I had on. See, there's it's fairly flat walking where I'm hunting here, and there are mountains here. I'm typically not hunting up in the mountains, so I have these boots. I call them snow boots. They're just this lightweight boot with no tread on the bottom. Right? They're just you might as well be wearing slippers. You know what I mean? And they come with a little insole. And they're pretty good for hunting. They stay pretty warm, and I'll put 2 pocket warmers in my socks, or 2 pairs of socks, and I'll put them between the layers underneath my toes. In those. Works out great. But then I spotted the big buck at the top of the frickin' mountain. And I went for it. And it's so steep, and I got cliffed out. I'll give the report later. But anyway, normally this is my hunting boot. This is a stiff boot, a hunting boot, $700 pair of boots, right? This is the Mac Daddy, the European Mendels, and they have ankle support. They dig in, they stick. You're not gonna bet them up. They're wicked boots. That's what you need for mountain hunting. So I woke up last night. I had my soft pack, day pack on my back, normally every day. I'm not going to waste a trip down, so I put the head and the cape, which is the hide, and the antlers and some other meat in my day pack, loaded up, and I marched that down off the mountain, all in snow. And then I hiked it out to where I was confident I could get my vehicle to it, dumped it under a tree, hiked out to the vehicle, and then I have a frame pack that you can load up, 100 and something pounds in that sucker. And I grabbed that, and I always have a spool of commercial fishing net twine. It's hundreds of pound test, very thin, lightweight. Grabbed a roll of that, and I used that for strapping all the meat onto the frame pack. And then I grabbed a empty grain sack for like rib meat, loins, and neck meat, pieces that are real tough to tie onto a frame pack. And I hiked all the way back up there again and loaded all that in my back. And then I literally had my rifle in one hand, my frame pack loaded with meat. Those deer, like 300-pound deer, right? And then I literally dragged the grain sack behind me on the snow all the way down the mountain and out, and dumped that with my other pack, and then hiked out to my truck, put it four-wheel drive, and bashed my truck in there to the packs and loaded everything up. It was such a good feeling when you get to sit down in that seat. Oh, and I was absolutely soaked through. But anyway, no video yesterday, obviously, and then I just ate some food. And then I woke last night. My feet were literally pounding with pain at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. I don't have painkillers here, and there's no store here. And oh my God, my body was murdering me. That pounding last night, but my feet felt like they had been hit with baseball bats. Oh my gosh. So no sleep last night, so I didn't even go out today, obviously. I couldn't sleep last night and ended up having a huge nap, ate some food this morning, and here we are, back and ready to rip. I'll give a hunt update more in detail at the end. Now, I didn't get to post on Remembrance Day, unfortunately. Obviously, you think about Remembrance Day all day, during the day, every time. And it seems almost every time I'm hunting. And you can't not think about it. And all those veterans. Rest their souls. And I can only imagine, and I gotta say it, I'm gonna say it because somebody has to, and I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say it for them. I have friends who are currently in the military, officers. In our current military, they all despise our leadership here in Canada. They have implemented you're not allowed to refer to a woman as a she in the Canadian military, or a man as a he. What? Right? I don't even have to explain much more. As long as you just know that fact, you know what it must be like for them. You imagine what my grandfather and everybody else's passed away veterans are doing in their graves, rolling in their graves. Right now, what's happening to veterans. We had they showed on the news a large ceremony, Abbotsford, British Columbia, where we have, our whole country has a massive homeless problem. And the entire memorial park, where they have the memorial service outside, is cluttered with homeless people in the background in tents. Right? Where they have this memorial service. You can look it up. Abbotsford, British Columbia, memorial service. You'll see it. It's so sad. The state of our country is so sad. It's to the point I wonder if our veterans, anyway, what I'm getting at is our veterans, North American veterans, are basically treated like trash today, fiercely. And that needs to be spoken about loudly, because it's unacceptable. Right? It's unacceptable. Okay, so there you go. I could probably rant on forever on that topic, but I had to say something. I could probably say a lot more. But hell. Dirty lenses. What else? I have in my inbox, my email server sucks ass. Enom. I don't even know how it got in there, but it's the one that holds my howtohunt.com domain name. Anyway, remember I had in the beginning I was like, hey, anybody wants me to share their experience, let it rip, send it to me. Remember that at the very beginning? I didn't know this was going to happen. And then I had to change it from my email because it got clogged up. And then I started a tell my story email. And then that got clogged up. Then I had to open up a second email because they wouldn't sell me any more space at that time or something. I don't know. Then I got to share my story. And then years ago, I started a folder. And I just found it again because I only encourage people to email me to share my story. So I rarely go into tell my story inbox. Well, I went in there and I keep forgetting. The very bottom is a little file with Sask on it. From the very beginning. I guess I must have taken all of the emails from my personal email, put them in a folder, figured out how to do it, and transferred them into tell my story email. But it sits in a little folder at the bottom. It just says SASQ at the very bottom. You don't even notice it. Found it again. Cracked it open. Thousands of emails. Whew. Thousands. Is it amazing how many witnesses there are to truth? So, here we go. Let's get into it, all right? Let's get the voices heard. You know where to start. I copied and pasted, I think, 50 of them in here, in my notes. Starting at the top, here we go. A story of my encounter. Hi, my name is Rodney. I'm 17 years old and I'm from Arkansas. My family owns around 900 acres of land in the northwest side of the state. I like to take hikes and hunt on the land. And sometimes I go camping out there to get away from my troubles. So I went camping 6 months ago and I brought my fishing gear and rifle along because I wanted to stay out there for a couple of days. And they had a creek that I could fish for food. It was late afternoon and some snow was on the ground. I was fishing when I heard something that sounded like it was heavy. So I grabbed my rifle. Because black bears have been a problem on the land lately, and I wasn't going to be surprised by a sow and her cubs. So I sat there, and I could hear what it was get closer and closer, and then it stopped at the tree line across the creek. It was giant. And I would have swore it was 9 feet across the shoulders. It was a blackish gray color and walked slouched over, and all I could think about was keeping it in my rifle sights, but I knew I couldn't shoot because I was so scared. It noticed me at about 10 yards out in the tree line, and it kind of looked at me, weighing out what to do. And it made a roaring, almost screaming sound that rattled inside my chest like a concert when you sit too close to the speakers. All I knew to do was to get the hell out of there. And I went back after the snow cleared and I didn't find anything out of the ordinary. And I didn't expect to because it was frozen ground. And when it happened, I haven't been camping there since. I tell my friends this story and they all say someone had to be playing a prank on me. But I knew what I saw. And like you said, you don't really believe in these things until you see them. End of story. Rodney, you're a brave young man. I appreciate you sending that in to us. I hope you're still here listening to all of the people and learning, all right, about what's going on there and what happens on average, what's threatening, what isn't, and what to do. Thank you for coming forward, Rodney. You're a brave, honest man. What a thing for a 17-year-old to see and not ever have any knowledge on it previous, right? Why we're here. A story for you. Steve, first I enjoy your down-to-earth and straightforward style on this topic. And as a fellow nowhere, I too had the attitude of, F you if you don't believe me, I know what I saw. I share this because most of the encounters that are valid come from deep, in very remote areas of our continent. The idea being that these huge omnivorous predators need large areas of undisturbed wilderness to successfully survive, and I believe that is true for the most part. But my encounters were not of that like. They were in the woods for sure, but nowhere near as remote and off the grid as your BC stories. And as such, I think you'll find the two stories interesting. I'm a lifelong hunter and fisherman. 68, grew up in suburban New Jersey. Combat vet from Southeast Asia, and I've never spent a moment in the kind of remote areas you frequent. Central Maine as a college student, then Central Texas as a hog hunter were the locale of my encounters, and were within 30 miles of relatively large cities. Austin in Texas and Bangor in Maine. These things are a great deal like black bears, in my opinion. They can exist in relative close contact with humans and live successfully quite close to human habitation. My first contact, it was in the early 70s, 71 I believe, and it took place in the logging forests of central Maine where I went to undergraduate school. We hiked into a fairly remote area of an old logging work just north of Bangor. Most bear hunting in the 70s in Maine was done either with dogs, now illegal I think, or over bait. The group of us were led by a frat brother who knew the area and convinced us that a spot and stalk hunt was possible. To shorten the story, I had set myself up overlooking a small stream and had good concealment and cover when a very large, and I would estimate between 300 and 400 pounds, boar came downstream, turning over rocks and looking for food. I shot him, field dressed him on the spot. I left his carcass on a huge flat rock and went to collect my other friends. In the 20 minutes it took me to find them and return, the carcass was gone. Clean as a whistle. No sign of another bear feeding on it or dragging it away. Only one very large scuffy mark in the gravel bed that had the appearance of a footprint. What carries the field-dressed carcass of a large boar black bear off and leaves no drag marks? Just a few drops of blood and gone? And no, there was no one but our party of 4 in that area. No sign of other humans anywhere. Our group came to the conclusion that whatever had done it, we didn't want to know what it was. I had an interest even then in the subject. I had read the only really available book on the subject, Ivan Sanderson's book, and used my logical mind to concur that only a Sasquatch could have been responsible. Flash forward to 2011. In the intervening years, I had served in a covert unit in Southeast Asia not long after my first contact. I mention that because I know what it is like to be followed in the forest, to be flanked and followed off the trail by something. I also built a normal life, including hunting and fishing whenever possible. After having a successful hog hunt at our lease in central Texas, hiking back to our vehicles carrying portions of hog, I clearly sensed and heard movement and footsteps paralleling us off the trail. Again, our group was 4 in number, and all were accounted for. I was the last in line, and as the sense of being followed grew, I began to vary my stride and movement in the hopes of seeing what might be following us. I was thinking another hunter, who should not be there. He was our lease. Or perhaps a cougar, but they are generally more stealthy than this intruder was being. Finally, I got a pretty good sense of from what direction the sounds were coming from, and by stopping abruptly and whirling around towards the sounds, I got the shock of my life. As I watched, a brownish/red Sasquatch move from one mesquite tree to another. It was not huge. I'd estimate 6.5 feet, but in the 2 or 3 second glimpse I had, I was very impressed with its bulk. I'm 5'9", and not so svelte 245, and this being dwarfed me in width. I jacked around into the chamber of my Marlin 4570 and watched the mesquite tree where it disappeared. It never reappeared, and my companions were moving off as I stood, and my sense was not to leave too much space between them and me. Didn't want to be the fat kid last in line. My encounter could not have been more brief, but it was long enough that I could swear the details of the size and color. I have given up hunting alone, except doves in view of my truck. And even when I hunt with others, I have a strong sense of paying more attention to my surroundings than I ever did, even with the experiences in Southeast Asia. I share because we both know these beings are real, and I thought you'd be interested in the story, however uneventful. And that was from a different geographical area than your own and much closer to, quote, civilization, end quote. Thank you for your website and YouTube work, and also a fan of how to hunt before Sasquatch made the menu, and remain one. P.S. We live on a golf course with literally hundreds of whitetail, some with amazing racks, and when I follow while I follow our little dog into our well-lit fenced-in backyard at night, it's with a 357 on my hip, my wife is told that it's for coyotes. And that is true enough, but coming from a hard-drinking Irish family, I know that if you leave hundreds of full beer bottles on the ground, sooner or later, an Irishman is going to show up to drink them. Those tame deer sure look like beer bottles to me, and I wonder when Mr. S is going to show up and to have some. Yeah. A lot of people stay strapped every single day of their life after realizing this is real, right? Strapped right up. I kind of do, sort of, but I don't know. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. You know, when I go steelhead fishing, I don't have any guns. I pack a gun when my gut tells me to bring a gun. I almost went up the mountain yesterday for my second pack, and I was almost going to leave my rifle because it's just more weight, but then obviously I snapped out of it. It's like, what are you thinking, stupid? Fresh meat on the ground, grizzly country, and then go hike back up to it without a rifle. Snapped out of that dumb ass thought pretty quick. There you go, another knower. Welcome to the Club of No Return, my man. I appreciate your share. Appreciate you sharing your truth. Now here's one. I've been to this place, this title. 15-foot tall Sasquatch at Rath Trevor Provincial Park. Hello, Steve. At least I think that's your name from one of your YouTube videos. Well, nice to meet you. I'm Terry Vibert, by the way, and my story is quite vivid and freaking scary. It happened while I was on a mini vacation in the year 2000 at Rath Trevor Provincial Park on Vancouver Island during the summer. Exact date I do not recall, but it was sunny most days back then there. My background at the time was former employee of AeroGuard Group in pre-board screening security as a supervisor at YVR Airport for 10 years experience. Oh wow. Well, excuse me, I was car camping. Yeah, I know about bears, so I did leave food in the car. The car was a white Chev Cavalier sedan, formerly owned by BC Tel. The back seat folded down and the exposed trunk, and there was just enough room with front seats pushed forward to sleep back there with a foam cushion and a comforter and a pillow. There you go. Quick and easy. So the first night, which was the last I had a hot shower, then went for a stroll through the night along the road to the beach. It was quiet there, except for sounds of pebbles rolling around the beach as though something big was moving there. I didn't investigate, but took in the Milky Way stars that were out that night and a small airplane circling around the sky. I began to return to the park when there was a lot of campers in the park that night and had lots of campfires and cook stoves burning as I saw the steam rising from the flames. I then headed from the beach back to my car, which is parked near the caretaker's house with a white light atop a pole over the backyard. My car was in a stall next to a fifth-wheel trailer to the west of my car. The house is to my southeast. The showers were further east midway through the park, and the beach was halfway across the park to the far east. So here's the part that is frightening. It was Early in the next morning, in the wee hours before daybreak, when I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps booming through the forest and woke up as the sounds were deafening, and I saw a man-like ape creature in all black walking on the gravel road from east to west right past my car. It was effing 15 feet tall. It was just like the Patty film or the Patterson movie on Bigfoot, except it was male, as his chest was bare. It walked right past me to the west, then stopped. At that time, I ducked down under my comforter. Then, when I heard no sounds, I peeked up and saw it look into my stall area. Then it moved back in front and stopped and stood right behind my car. I was freaking out, scared shitless. It then backed up, surveyed the area, looking for me. There was no tent. Then I noticed its eyes, and they were glowing red. Then it looked down and spotted me. My jaw was dropped, and I was in awe. And I tried to scream, but I couldn't. And it mimicked my face. Its look was fear, then turned to anger as it glared at me. It had buck-toothed teeth like a horse, and a mouth as human with a tongue. And a mouth as a human with a tongue. His face was hairless, but it had a coned head and all black. It looked to be 15 feet tall. Its feet were sideways to me before when it was in my stall as it bumped the bumper with its legs below its knees. I estimate it had 24-inch feet, which were two bare up past its ankles. It had human-like feet, but its walk was dragging like, as I estimate it was 2,000 pounds in weight. Well, it continued to glare at me. I had a Pentax camera ready but didn't take a picture because it was angry. It never made a sound from its voice, but walked past my car into the bushes between my car and the fifth wheel trailer. Next, I heard a man scream, "Please help me, it's gonna kill me," as he ran into the trailer, as it shook violently back and forth. Then it was all over. And please note, its chest was at least 2 upright pianos wide, with thick shoulders and arms and hands as wide as a car door, with palms bare and fingers 4 inches wide and 18 inches long. It was massive in stature. That's my story. I have another story, but it comes from a government official back in 2004 with the United States. That's for another time. P.S. I respect you and admire your beliefs to get the word out. Thanks again for your time. Sasquatch is real, and you can only kill it with a 50 cal rifle to its head. Noted. Taken from my American government official yet to be discussed. Wow. That is quite the description. I don't think we've had that well, we probably have had something similar in size. Rath River Beach. That's on the east side of Vancouver Island, not far from us, where we live. Been there. Crazy, right? I want to hear more from you. If you're still here with us, what did your American government official buddy tell you? Please share with us, all right? We don't like secrets here. It's pretty intense. What's up with the red glowing eyes not being all the time, you guys? Possible Sasquatch encounter. Title this email. Greg, a former co-worker of mine from Kansas, was a military kid. I was stationed in Fort Rich, Alaska for 5 years, and that's how we got into this. Probably 35, 40 years ago. They were moving military orders to Alaska, camping with a travel trailer along the Alcan en route. One night they pulled off and parked next to some others just north, or maybe right near the BC-Yukon border. Hot spot, I know for a fact. Around sunset, a large, dark figure started moving really fast back and forth just outside the tree line, maybe a couple hundred yards away. Still light enough to tell it wasn't a bear and too big to be a human, and would run upright like a man. This carried on for 15 to 20 minutes and would occasionally bum rush / charge toward the campers and then just as quickly retreat. During this time, all the others pulled out and left. He said his dad got his 30-06 and they said they weren't leaving and he'd shoot if need be. As it grew darker, this thing got braver and would come closer and closer, grunting and growling, doing the same bluff-type charges, and retreat then back and forth really fast again. Maybe staking claim to the ground or beyond tree line was off limits. Anyways, this thing finally got to the point where it would slam into the side of the camper, shaking the whole thing. They thought it would tip over. His dad apparently lost his nerve from previous claims, and they ended up pulling out and drove till morning and found a proper campsite to reassess and probably plan the rest of the trip in hotels, etc. This story told to me, and this guy got visible goosebumps on his arms, recalling those events, and would only carry on when it was just him and I in the break room. Love your videos, and I hope you enjoyed the story. There you go, there's another one. The Yukon-BC border, that is where I've mentioned before, 2 conservation officers in the States, call them game wardens, were on their quads on one side of Alaska Highway, just right at that border. I think it's Carcross is there? Carcross? I think there's a native community there. And this thing's standing there on the other side of the highway looking at them. And they're on the other side of the highway in the quads looking at it. 2 game wardens. Right there. In the past, probably still today. Here comes another one. PA Redneck Prowler / Washington Gorilla Bark. It's the title of this email. Hey dude, love the stories. I can see, I got it. When I was in high school, I did one of those jobs where you travel and live solo for 30 years too. Adventurous all over the world. I don't care if you believe this. Well, you know. Growing up in rural Pennsylvania, we routinely had problems with what we called prowlers. Our windows would get tapped on late in the evening while we were watching TV, or my grandma across the road would see a face in her window at night, but her window was 8 feet up, and her name was Hazel, and we all called her Hazelnuts. The window thing got to be a nuisance to where we would turn on the lights outside and nothing. Then we'd wait and try to catch them, but they were too fast. Then the neighbors started talking, and it was happening everywhere, but nothing was being stolen. Just tap and run. Now, talk of trespass and the shotguns by the doors for years. I remember this growing up. On my 17th birthday, I had some friends, a mini keg, the garage, and we got the prowler. At the time, most of us were in kung fu training, actively running and doing weapons and hand-to-hand combat routines daily for practice. My mom agreed to the beer if we all stayed the night. And the garage on Memorial Day weekend seemed like a party. We actually were quite reserved, just busting on each other, sitting around the garage when the tapping started late in the evening. Because I was mid-sentence, I continued saying, and you're going to the back door, and you to the side, and we're going to go to the front. And the next tap, we're going to go to the front at the next tap, and we're going to catch whoever this is. Well, we had another beer and tap, and we were all out of our doors in a flash. And what it was, beat the pants off 5 fast teenagers in a race. We could make out a shape, but it was gone in a second. 2 hours later, blam! My grandfather is blasting his double barrel out his back door. A quarter mile away, there's a trailer court. Every time things like this happened in our town, unfortunately, the trailer with the new black guy that just moved in, since he was the only black guy for 30 or 40 miles, would usually have the secret nightly pressure applied from a local group, since all the witnesses who saw the tapper claimed it was a big, fast black guy and only seen after dark. It was years later that I realized what was really going on. Oh, that's sad, isn't it? Poor guy. Oh, there's dust in here. My nose is itching. Sorry. I moved to Washington a couple years ago, and a few weeks after being here, I was still so much in love with the Northwest. It is still sickening. Anyway, in early December one night, our dog was whining. So I got up to let him out. And I put on my shoes thinking I'll go out and sneak one of these legal Washington dubers. Now that I'm allergic to beer, wine, and shellfish. So I grab my lighter and I open the door and the dog goes out. Says, nope. Turns around, pissing the whole time and runs, whining back into the house. I can hear all the dogs on the small Elwha reservation road beyond us going nuts. But I got a joint, and I am Mike Fetterman. I've been to Africa and I've had lions rub against me through the tent, stared down hippo, wrestled crocs, bitten by a cobra, rattlesnakes, Gila monster alligators. I've been drugged by horses. I can stand up to the meanest biker in a bar. So I'm puffing, enjoying the crisp air, thinking, there's a shepherd. That one is a coonhound, a mutt, a beagle. And I was imagining echolocation. Try to picture the layout, but the dog's barking. And they were all to my right, just north of me, towards the strait. I was hoping to see some raccoon or maybe an elk or a bear would stroll through, but I was just enjoying a good puff with my eyes closed when I heard to my left and east echo out of the quarry a gorilla. I told you I had adventures. Well, I was a zookeeper since I was 17, going to Africa, traveling to most of zoos in North America. I've seen and heard a lot of gorillas. I was not scared per se, but I did tiptoe back inside, just confused enough to stare out the window at black and trees until dawn. Now I've had many concussions and I'm forced to be, awake during the night and stay away from the light. So I hear lots of little whoops and whistles that if you don't listen all the time, you just don't hear. I haven't seen anything yet. If I win the lottery, I would love to come on a moose hunter. I'll come with you. Maybe I could tell you about the king cobra in my lap on the interstate at 4 a.m. in blizzard sometime. Don't know if you can use it, but however, whatever, thanks. Have fun later. Mike Fetterman. There you go. Appreciate the share, Mike. What's up with the window tapping? Looking in the window, but terrified of humans on average. It's all confusing, right? This next email is titled Geologist. Oh, quick. Wait, I just remembered. As I was reading, I was remembering something I forgot to tell you guys. Quick interruption, but it's interesting. Remember I told you about the guy who found the leg near where I hunt, near Whistler, British Columbia, where I was living the last 18 years? Excuse me. So, just this afternoon, I was talking to my buddy, who's the first responder there, who I've known forever. We were family. And the guy who found the foot is one of his best friends. That's how we have the contact. So I got him on the phone today. I go, dude, tell me about the leg. What happened? And it was off of West Side Road, which West Side Road is on the other side of the lake from the view of Whistler, Blackwell, and the Ski Mountains, all right? And he was up behind his house in the forest, and he called my buddy, who I was just talking to. He called him, because he just got on with the department too. They're both first responders now. And he called him, and he goes, I think I just found somebody's foot. It's in a boot. He's like, what? Send me a picture. Sends him a picture, because my friends are very experienced with all this, whatever, first responders see it all, right? And he goes, yep, that's a human foot. And is there anything else laying around anywhere? He's like, nope. And he said he was pretty upset with what he had found. He said, well, you better send it to the cops. Anyway, he did say to me, he goes, well, we're thinking maybe this one guy is an old guy that apparently had dementia that disappeared. They haven't found him yet. they thought maybe it was him. And apparently there was a young girl with suicidal thoughts who said something about going to the woods and killing herself around sometime, not far from there. Thought maybe it's her. And then he said, but I don't know. He goes, I mean, you know a lot about animals and what happens to the animal parts with the body parts. And I said, yeah, no. And I ran through what each predator species does with kills. And there's just no way. There is no way you're only going to find the human leg, foot in a boot. And that's it. If it's due to wild animal, it doesn't matter. If you deceased of natural causes right there in the ground, right there. Even if, let's just say, a pack of wolves came along and decided you're delicious, they're not going to eat your jawbone with your teeth. They don't do it. The jawbones of teeth, you always find those of every single flavor of anything that dies in the woods. You find the jaws, usually with deer and elk and horses and everything, is split in half, so you find half a jaw, skulls, antlers. And I said to my buddy, I go, look, you never, ever, ever just find a deer leg, a deer foot, or a bear foot, or a wolf foot. Right? Anyway, that's my update. I got the hen, and then I did say, send me the picture. And he goes, yeah, no, he actually showed me the picture, but I can get it if you want it. I'm like, I don't really need that to share here, do I? You know what I mean? Decomposing human foot in the woods. So there's my update on that topic. Oh, and he also said, I go, did it make the paper? He goes, no. I go, they didn't make it public. There's a newspaper we have there called the Peak newspaper. He goes, no. And then he says, actually, you wouldn't believe how much crazy ass shit that goes on that the public is never informed of. What's up with that? What's up with that? Oh, part of a human body was found just above the community here. Don't tell anyone. Bullshit. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag here, right? Geologist, the title of this email. By intro, I'm a retired registered professional geo with the education, experience, and professional ethics and accreditation that comes with that designation. Lots of people call themselves geologists, and it's illegal without the street cred. I had a very successful career. I spent most of my life in the Canadian North, Canadian Arctic, BC, lived 14 years in Vancouver, including my first industry job above Harrison Hot Springs on Bear Mountain. Backwoods, China, India, Bolivia, Siberia, Australia, and 4 years on the North Slope, and Chugach in Alaska. I lived in Yellowknife and ran a boat on Great Slave. It's a lake. And lived in Anchorage and ran a boat on Prince William. I'm not blowing my horn here, I'm just wanting you to know that I'm not a nut bar. Live in Calgary and have a son in Whistler. So I do the Duffy regularly, but I've never seen anything there, but gotta admit, spider senses tingling. Right? Quick note on that note, the very first time I drove the Duffy ever, over 20 years ago, I had the truck with my saddle on my gear, a bunch of moose quarters from the end of guide season, and I was trying to get to Nanaimo on the island, so I thought, well, I'm going to take this road. I take that ferry to Nanaimo from Horseshoe Bay. So I took the Duffy, and I could feel the pressure instantly. As soon as I left Lillooet, it's on fire. That whole corridor, you could feel it. But I gotta admit, spider sense is tingling. I'm also a hunter. I grew up hunting birds and waterfowl in Ontario and Quebec, and now bow hunt whitetail every fall in Ontario with my bros. Big racks, man. Doing a backpack moose hunt near Sheep River in the foothills this fall with a good bud who never misses, so I'm sure thinking about it. Something happened to me twice in 1 week. In the extreme remote bush north of Wawa, Ontario in 83 or 84, while I was in university and a summer job, geological assistant mapping with the Ontario Geological Survey. As an assistant, my job is to do pace and compass tracking through dense bush, so the senior geo behind me always knew where we were on air photos. Pre-GPS days. Kind of like your gramps doing timber cruising. The senior usually walked high on the outcrops, while our job is to navigate straight through the shit using our compass. By shit, I mean that bush and terrain is nasty. It was in Aguani Township, which we translated to agony. We called it the Wawa Rainforest because it wasn't raining, it was dew off Superior, and was always soaked like the BC coast. Please be sensitive to the names because I recall my name is on the published maps and I don't have specific evidence, but some weird shit happened. The terrain absolutely sucks there, and it is undulating shield. With rock up high surrounded by huge alder swamps. Wet and so thick they rip your clothes. Visibility and density is like the slough on the coast. I remember navigating through an alder swamp one morning and hearing a huge harump sound maybe 10 yards away. Can't describe it. Then, massive crashing and thump, 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 etc. of an animal running directly away from the way I was going. I chalked it up to a moose I'd surprised. About 3 days later, same thing happened in another alder swamp nearby, maybe 1 kilometer, except this time I tried to surge ahead to see what it was. I never saw it. I remember a bad smell, and a bunch of 2-inch alder were busted off 6 feet high. I'm 6'2". Again, I thought it was a moose, and his antlers had busted the alder as he ran. I chalked the bad smell up to maybe a bear, but it was strong. I never saw anything, but I've always been foxed by what it was. So, recently I saw a video done by some native guys out of Thunder Bay, talking about experiences north of Superior along Highway 11, etc. Mainly, and it reminded me of these 2 events. It got me wondering. This would have been in June, early July. I don't think a bull rack would be that developed by then. Maybe I'm wrong. You'd know better. Yeah, they're still growing a lot by then. Not even halfway done by then. What would he have been doing kilometers from the nearest lake where they feed on lake plants? The bugs in the bush are so bad there that time of year. That's what we got paid for. Trust me, you would do it for some emerging alder browse. The deer flies alone would deter a moose. The area had been logged in the 70s, and as the loggers retreat in Ontario, they pulled the bridges and culverts, so we had to drop trees and bridge rivers to get our trucks in. Never assume real geologists aren't anything but badass, trust me. It's wicked tough terrain. We were definitely intruding in retrospect on anything wild in the region. I've been an animal guy all my life and, retrospectively, don't get it. So after all this, I saw your stories, which are compelling, and got wondering. I'm not a believer yet because, as an example, my bro asked me in camp a few years back, "Do you think Bigfoot is real?" And at the time I replied, "Don't you think someone would have hit one with a car by now?" But as a scientist, I would pass on a common driver for our curiosity into the unknown, which is, quote, "We don't know what we don't know," end quote. It's not meant to be deep or serious. It's just meant to remind us that once we thought the world was flat and that Earth was the center of the universe until good, honest people figured out how to measure the heavens and proved that shit wrong. In conclusion, I'd say, given the huge amount of stories from folks with nothing to gain by telling them, there has got to be something we don't know. Greg. I don't know when that was written in. It was a while back, Greg, but I'm probably, if you're still here listening, I'm pretty confident you've accepted the facts shared by all the honest people, right? He said the Earth wasn't flat. Uh-oh. It's going to be a shitstorm. They're going to be slinging insults in the comment section. Purple and pink hair flying everywhere. Here's another one. I seen one, and I know I'm not crazy. My name is Kyle Gregg. I'm from a small town in southeastern Oklahoma called Morris, Oklahoma. It's a bog. I always try to get through the typos because obviously we don't pre-read here, right? There's no reason to. So I try to make it smooth. But here we go. It's tight. It's a bog ranch. So I'm thinking it's a big ranch in cowboy community. I grew up cowboying and working my family ranch day in and out all my life. I know every tree, pond, and rock around, along with the wildlife. We had some mountain lions and black bear, but really seen mostly deer and wild hogs are the most common. Well, this last week, it was July 12th. It was a hot day. I've been working cattle all day, and we got done around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, there's no punctuation. Okay, guys? It's okay, though. I'll get it as smooth as I can. And we got done around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Instead of riding straight back to the house with my dad and my brother, I decided I wanted to go to the pond in one of our fields, which is heavy wood and backs up to a wildlife preserve. Mind you, we own 2,300 acres of land. This part of the country is thick brush and trees, so I set off for the pond. I was riding my dun horse. We're riding along and I get to the trailhead to open the gate to the field. Just a beat down path in our woods at the south side of the property. I opened the gate and my horse started acting up, which don't happen like ever. He's a working cow horse and gets rode every day. Worked off, goes to the rodeos as sound as one can get, so I push him through, but he is acting really funny. So I get down wondering if maybe he picked up something in his foot. So I check his feet. I got to get back on, and he starts rearing up. So I get in the saddle and I whip his ass. Think, what the F is your problem? He would go forward an inch. He keeps trying to turn and run off back towards the house. Then I look up and I saw it coming out of the brush. The hair on my whole body stood up. I froze in fear. My horse breaks in two, and he is bucking his ass off as I get thrown from his back. I hit the ground and stand up. When I turn to see this thing, he was standing there in scared shitting myself. I go for my gun. I carry a .45 single action Vaquero. Everywhere I got for snakes and such. It's an old cowboy rig. I pull iron. I'm shaking so bad. I got the first shot off. This thing turns and disappears into the brush. I shot one more in that direction, and I am scared shitless. I turn and take off running. I'm 25 years old. I grew up in these woods. My whole life, never once been scared to go in them. Anyhow, I caught up to my horse, and he was damn near back to the house. I've yet to step foot in a field? I've yet to step foot in a field. I won't go out there, man. It scared me down to the core. I used to think people who said they were real were crazy and full of shit. They used to make fun of it and make jokes. Well, the joke's on me. These things are effing real. I can't tell no one. My family would think I'm nuts and have me admit it, but man, they are real. Never been so scared in my effing life. And I've served 2 tours overseas fighting and rode bulls and bucking horses. I've skydived, and that had scared the life out of me. Sorry, but nothing has scared the life out of me. That thing had to be close to 9 feet. It was huge. And the stink of that son of a bitch, man. Dark, long, hairy son of a bitch. I've had nightmares of this thing. It's changed my life. I can't ever go out and ride my horse in the fields anymore. End email. Whew. Wow. That sucks. Another person with their life completely annihilated because of what they didn't know, right? As true and real. Appreciate that share, man. Don't feel bad about the no punctuation. It happens a lot. It's just the way it goes sometimes. No big deal. No big deal. What do the horses know, right? If I could just talk to a horse or a dog for 5 minutes in straight English and find out what they knew. My encounter with large bipedal. Aloha from Hawaii. I really enjoyed your YouTube channel, especially the film of the wonderful BC wilderness. BC is one of my most favorite places in North America. And this is my account of a strange incident I experienced in Washington in the early summer of 2005. My wife and I lived in Snoqualmie, Washington, where I was a building contractor at the time. We walked our JRT dog every day on the extensive trails around our development, as well as some more mountainous trails in nearby towns. It was quite common to see coyotes, black bears, and on occasion cougar tracks and poop/scent mounds, all within spitting distance of the neighborhood. And one afternoon, I was walking my dog back to the house on a one-way loop of the area. I happened to notice something staring at me through the cedar/hemlock understory. Excuse me, it was about 20 meters away, standing off the trail under a large second growth hemlock. I couldn't see its entire body, but could make out its head and part of its shoulders. Just like when we're confronted by a mama black bear and a cub one time. My brave little dog wisely tucked its tail between its legs and jumped into my arms without a peep. At first I thought it might be a bear, but simultaneously my brain was saying, no way. That is too friggin' tall. Unless it was a grizzly, but the head wasn't big enough either. Then my mind was like, elk? No. I had already unholstered my Glock 23 and had it down by my leg. I started talking to the creature because I thought it might be a person in costume. It was Washington, a lot of weird people there. I said hi, got no response, but I could see its eyes moving. I tried to do a 360 scan without being too obvious. I definitely got the feeling it was dangerous. Like a big bull, gorilla, lion, or elephant, but not that I was in direct danger. I debated going closer, but felt that provoking a response, if it wasn't a human, wouldn't be very fair to it. I let it know I was armed and content to let it go on its way, if it let me alone. But that if it didn't, I would kill it. In my own mind, I was pretty sure it would maul me bad, but that I'd be able to get the majority of 11 rounds in it. I didn't think I would get an opportunity to switch mags, but was willing to give it a go. I also wasn't sure the 11 rounds would be enough, as they were hollow points, but planned on aiming from its hips to its sternum. Other than shifting its eyes and turning its head away a couple of times, it didn't move. I said goodbye, headed down the trail, looking back and to the sides continuously. When I got home, I got out my 12 gauge with slugs, but decided against trying to find it. And once again, it didn't seem fair, and was worried it might be a person after all. And to this day, I'm not sure what I saw. Only that after a lifetime in the woods, hunting, hiking, logging, and war fighting, I've never encountered something that unusual. I'm a former U.S. Marine, military contractor, and grew up in Maine. I've hiked and camped all over North America, and have encountered all of the world's most dangerous predators and big animals. I've paddled with sharks off of Sable Island in Nova Scotia, seen gorillas, lions, and elephants in Africa, seen wolves, grizzlies, and swam with a finback whale. Currently, I'm starting a second career in applying to medical school. Cheers, John Whitworth. There you go. Welcome to the club, John. Odd reaction from the being, right? I wonder why it didn't just take off. I wonder why it let you see its eyes move but didn't leave. So many eyewitnesses. So many. Okay, one more. I'm doing laundry today. I'm going back at it tomorrow. I got one tag left. I'm gonna get that other deer. One more. Huge storm at home right now, apparently. Power's out, everything's flooding. This next emails tell a Sasquatch story. My mother and father purchased a plot of land on the Methow River in northeast Washington State. One of my early trips was when I was young. Was when I was around 7 or 8 years old. I'm 56 now. My dad and I hiked up the river from the property, and we're going to do some fishing. And my dad had brought a .22 revolver with him to do some lessons for me in shooting and gun safety. We were on the river when we heard some loud crashing of trees on the other side of the river. I looked at my dad and said, "There's something over there." We quickly left the area and headed back to our camp. My father was a very knowledgeable person in the outdoors. He was a hunter and a fisherman. We never spoke to each other about this incident, and it very well could have been a bear, elk, or a deer. My father and I just never spoke to each other about it. Kind of like it never happened. Kind of weird for us to never discuss this all my life growing up with him. My family and I went up there many times through the years. Years later, in my teenage years, we were back there and something was crashing through the woods again. It was on our property at night, and something threw a large rock about the size of a melon. I didn't think he was aiming at us, but hoping, I guess, to scare us off. Again, nothing was said from that incident. Have you ever heard of a place called Mazama? It's on the east side of the Cascades. Mazama. East of the Cascades. It's roughly 20 or so miles from Canada. The only sign of a border was a gate back then, and it was very remote. Now, from what I have read, it has mountain bikers and whatnot. Back in the day, it really was a remote area. I've never told anyone at all about this, not even the wife. Wives. The first marriage lasted 20 years, and the new one, 15. Joseph Pittner. There you go. Welcome to the club, Joseph. Thanks for sending that in. Send that in to the people. You got to appreciate everybody that writes in, right? It's tough to write emails. It's tough to tell stories, especially with strangers. But when the way it's been going with truth and people being scared to talk the truth, I guess it's just relieving, eh? To find all of us here, it's really relieving for a lot of people. But anyway, that's all I'm going to read. It's starting to put me to sleep. I'm so tired. I'm going to get my laundry, going to eat some food, and I'm going to organize all my gear again and get ready to go out again. It's just a blizzard out there, but I'll give you my hunt update. How's that? And emails. So for all my hunters out there, I'll tell you what happened. So the original buck that I've been after, that big mule deer, I finally got a daylight video of him. And I think he's very young and very special. So it's tough at nighttime videos on the trail camera, right? So I got him. I looked at him like, oh my God, that's a young deer. He's huge. But most gargantuan bucks are huge when they're young. So I'm like, I'm not going to kill him. He gets a pass. He needs to grow a couple more years and become something real special. And nobody hunts for him hunting because not too many people around here hiking in the woods. I don't get it. Whatever. So I went miles away to my other spot, or monitoring some other deer, and there was another buck there who was a big, mature buck, and about as big as he's going to get, but big, huge body. And that's what I went after, and I found him, I got him. But I looked up the top of the mountain, and there's 5 does at the top of the mountain. I'm like, oh my God. Oh well, gotta do what you gotta do. So I headed up there, full snow, in those shitty boots. God. And I don't know how far away I was, and I spotted him. I don't know. It's long ways away. And I'd hike down my mountain, cross the creek, go straight up a bank, and then hike all the way up. And I'll count. I've done this for years. I'll count 40 steps in my mind, 40, and then I'll make myself stop, try to catch my breath. And you're trying to go as fast as you can because you don't want them I wanted to get there before they went off and bedded the brush. And then, so you're trying to go as fast as you can, but not get, there's no way out of it. I was going to get sweaty and wet. Finally got up there, and I don't know how they did it, but I just see my last little chunk of bush and cover, I could just see, oh, there's a deer. They're still there, because I had to leave sight of them, right? And then I couldn't see him. I'm like, he's got to be there. There's one of the does, and she's looking straight down. But the wind was perfect. I was quiet. I don't know how, unless I had no backdrop behind me. Maybe they saw my silhouette moving behind the bush between us, probably. So she's already looking down. And then I'm sneaking up, and I look over, and they're all standing looking down. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not screened enough from that bush in front of me. And it is steep. Holy shit, it was steep. It totally reminded me of sheep hunting. And then I took my pack off, and I had to belly crawl in the snow around this corner up this one little snowy mound with grass around it. And the snowy mound looked like a rest. And I crawled up on my belly. Broadside, got him in the scope. I don't have buck fever. I don't lose my shit. And got the scope on him. I got one of those scopes with the additional crosshairs, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 600 meter. I glassed him. He's got to be 200 away from me anyway. So I held right on him, squeezed off, hit him. Down they go, straight down like this steep. And I could tell he was running odd. I nailed him. Excuse me. Down we go. So I'm like, I was done. I'm like, oh my God, I got him. Right on. This is going to be a nasty day. So I started to climb up. Now what did I do? I side hilled first. Had to climb up. I'm literally holding on to little tiny willow branches, trying to pull myself up. I'm sliding down every second step. You know what that's like for you people to hunt mountains of snow. So frustrating and hard. And it probably took me 20 minutes just to get to where they were. And then I saw his bounding tracks going down. And I noticed this cliff on the left, and I can't walk on that slope. Because if I slip, I got nothing to grab, and I'm just going to go, woo! And I'm going to go off the cliff. Shit. So then I go all the way back down, falling down as I go. I must have fell down 500 times yesterday. And then I went to the base of the cliff and held onto the willow. And I inched my way down, wrestled through the willow, holding on to prickle branches and shit. And I finally got around to the edge of the cliff, looking for him. He didn't make it over the cliff. We're still going on an angle away. And then I had to go all the way down to the bottom of my cliff, and then go up the next side, and then climb. I climbed all the way back up that slope with those stupid slippers on, barely getting any traction at all. And that took probably another hour just to get to where I could look down his last tracks, get it back up there again. Yep, they kept on going down that way. So I had to double check to make sure he didn't flip over the edge of any of that long cliff and walk by him. Still on his feet. All the mule deer are bounding, but he's in a running pattern in his tracks. Like, okay, he's got to be hurting. No blood. And then I get down to follow the trail and goes into Rock Cliff. And there's a bed where he laid down.
I don't know what, I must have screwed up my shot because he laid down. He ran about 200 and laid down right away. Not much blood in his bed, and then he just got up again when he saw me coming, so. I gotta go about this like real slow and intent. Damn.
I'll put the picture in here. I'll put some of the video in here. And I can tell he's got a hole in both sides of him. It's red blood, no stomach material or anything. And I guess he was laying down when I was going up to look down his tracks, saw me and took off again. I'm like, oh no, what did I do? I thought maybe liver, because I've shot some animals in the liver and they've lasted for quite a while. I'm like, well, it's obviously not lungs and heart, otherwise he'd be dead. Here we go. So I sat down, pulled my coffee out. I thought I better sit down. I let him calm down and let him start feeling uncomfortable, and that'll make them lay down longer, which allows you to sneak up and finish the job. I haven't screwed up a shot in years. Anyway, I started to go down And now I finally got blood sprinkles coming out the whole time on the snow, because before there wasn't any blood. But not a lot, but enough, right? And then I came to another spot on the cliff trail where he'd lay down again and got up and took off. I'm like, oh no, he must have seen me, because you don't want him to get adrenalized, because that'll make him go for a long ways. So sat down again, pulled up my coffee, made myself sit there as long as I could. Then I remember the frickin' weather report. It's gonna start snowing in the afternoon. Like, oh no, shit. And the day's getting on, right? I got the pressure to get on his ass. But I know I need, in a perfect world, I would have came back 4 hours later and then resumed tracking, but I couldn't. Now I've got time pressuring me. Snow's coming. Once the snow comes, it's all over. Not gonna find him. So I'm sneaking along like a cat, straight down. Now I'm getting into forest again. Scrubby willow, alder, whatever. Not alder up here. It's poplar trees.
Oh, he's bleeding more consistent. I'm thinking maybe liver. It's going straight down. I should get my eyes on him over this edge, I think. I hope. Maybe it's the liver.
And then I found another bed at the base of a big spruce tree and gone again. I'm like, oh shit. And it's kind of tough to be quiet up there. It got frozen, everything, crunch, crunch in the snow. No wind, so your sound is just... Then I got through a dip, and then I finally got my eyes on him, and he's running on all fours like he's fine with a doe. And he's big. I'm like, oh no. Couldn't get a shot. I'm like, oh no. But at least now we're getting into big timber. And you can see for quite a ways. Steep too, right? Thank God. And then I kind of picked up my pace, because I wanted to get down and over top of the next hill and see if I could see him in the dip. And I got up there, and he lay down again. 15 minutes after I saw him. So now I know he's hurting, right? So I slowed down again. We're talking, by now, since that original shot, 4 hours. Probably. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this. I'm going to lose this deer. No way. It just makes you sick, right? It's a shitty deal. I mean, I could have lied to you guys and said I smoked him one clean shot. But it didn't happen. I guess I'm sharing on a list to let everybody know it happens, right? Sometimes it happens. But anyway, so I get the timber, and then I saw the doe take off down to the left, but he kept going straight away. Which is good for me, because then it's just his tracks, not being confused with other tracks in the snow. And I could just see through the trees, the one little hole like that threaded right to him. And there he was finally. Yeah, but 4 hours later, broadside to my left, and he's standing there looking around. You can tell he's not sure what he's going to do next. He's thinking about it. And I had a free hand, and I'm huffing and puffing. Probably 150, I'm guessing. I'm looking around, no rest, and I knew, like, this is possibly my only chance I'm going to have. You know that pressure, right? I'm like, oh my God. Too shaky. Pull the trigger.
Oh my God, that was too much. Holy shit. I don't know what happened to my shot, but we'll find out in a minute. And finally, he led me down off the cliffs into this more open timber, and then I saw him, I don't know, maybe 200 away from me, 150. Got him. Oh, thank God. Thank God.
And he just turned away like that and took off running to the right. I'm like, oh no, we missed him? I missed him after all. I gotta think. Hours tracking and the intense pressure of needing to get this done and not lose him. And now the sun's going to go down. The snow's coming. So I got on his trail again. I walked over there. There he is laying there dead inside. Thank you. Thank God. I shot him perfect. Right behind the shoulder.
And no blood trail from the second shot either. I can't believe it. He is a beautiful deer. Holy cow. Oh my God, look at that buck. What a beautiful, beautiful deer. No way. Wow. Holy, look at that buck. Oh, I got him in the guts the first shot. That sucks. And I got him in the bullseye. Oh, that sucks. Haven't wounded a deer in years. Look at this deer. Oh, man. That is a beauty. Holy.
What a wild ride that was. Man, that sucks. It's even worse when you lose them, right? So my shot hit. So I shoot a rifle left hand, but I'm right-handed. I'm left eye dominant. And I naturally shoot this way. With my bow, I shoot a bow right-handed because I started shooting a right-handed bow when I was a kid. And that's just how I shot. So anyway, I don't know what happened. I mean, I was laying there, dead solid rest, kapow. And I hit a perfect height. And I always try to tuck it in off that elbow and low in the heart so I don't waste any of the rib meat. And it's a perfect shot for not wasting meat that I've found. And bleeding them out at the same time, which makes for a way better table fare, right? And I was perfect height for that heart, but I was about that much. Yeah, I was probably a good 18 inches to the right. Huh? Shitty. Oh well, got the job done. And I videotaped some of I videotaped the blood trail and everything, but unfortunately, I got to see what I got before I share it online because I keep my hunting secret at all costs, especially up in the small communities where I go, where I know a handful of people, and you can really screw it up by telling people where you're hunting. Believe me, in British Columbia, people are non-stop trying to figure out where people are hunting. And then once you get the wrong characters there, they bring a friend, they bring a friend, they bring a friend, and it's a cancer, and it's brutal. And I just don't do that. I hunt by myself, and I never tell anybody where I hunt. So what I'm saying is, I can't show the full view of where I was, otherwise people will probably figure it out. Okay? But I'll try to show you what I can along the ride that I'm sharing. Anyway, so I have my day pack on. I cut them all up. I put his head, antlers, and a little bit of meat in my day pack, filled it right up, so not to waste a pack off the mountain, all the way down. I got to where I figured I'd probably get my truck in there, dumped my pack under a tree, left my rifle in the tree, and then I hiked out to my truck, and I grabbed my frame pack, and I put that on. Oh, I think I already told this in the beginning of the video, right? And then I put that on. I grabbed a grain sack, empty grain sack, for the rib meat and the loins and the neck, and my spool line, and I hiked all the way back up there. Then it was just dark. By the time I got to my truck, it was dark. And this all started at first light in the morning. And then didn't eat a thing all day. And then what? Hiked out to my truck, got it in there, loaded the shit on, came home, passed out, woke up with my feet pounding at 2 in the morning from the pain from these stupid slippers and all that day. But I got him. Got the big mature buck. I had him on my trail camera once, so I knew he was there. Anyway, there you go. That's how it went down. And now I'm doing laundry. I'm going to organize my shit. And tomorrow I have got a choice of 2 bucks I'm going to go after tomorrow. I'm going to get a whitetail now. And there's one old buck. Old. He keeps hitting this one spot. But on my cameras, but it's at nighttime and there wasn't ever snow there. Now there's snow. So I will go there first thing in the morning. If he's on the camera and I see his tracks, I know it's his. And then tomorrow morning I will attempt to track this mature old whitetail buck down in the jungle and see if I can get him. And then in the evening, I'll go back to where I found a monstrous record buck whitetail, but he only showed on a camera once, looked around, and went back into the, who knows where. They travel so far. But I might go there, and if it doesn't work out tomorrow morning for this other old buck, then I'll go in there and see what I can learn about this great big monster and try to put him sit and wait somewhere around there where I think he might be traveling, or maybe the does are traveling. But either way, I'm going whitetail hunting tomorrow. That's my plan, and I really want to go home. I'm done. I'm tired, but I still got it in me. I want to get that second deer, right? So I'll go there and track in the morning. As long as the wind is right, it should happen. I should get them. I already know the whole area. But anyway, and if not, I'll go wait for the big one. And then whatever happens tomorrow will decide on my next morning. I'm not going to be too choosy on a whitetail. There's a lot of them. And they're all big. They're all big and they're delicious. So as long as I find a good mature buck, I'll tag them. But I would prefer to get one of those big old ones that I know about, you know. There you go. That is my summary, and I hope you enjoyed it. And for all you other hunters out there, I hope you're having a successful fall, a safe one, and you're cutting tags and getting that delicious, healthy table fare in the house. There you go. I'm beat. I'm so beat right now. I'm done. But that's about it. So, you got something you want to share with the world that needs to be heard, make sure you get it to us, all right? Word for word. You want your name withheld, we withhold the names on request. Share my story at howtohunt.com. See you tomorrow.
What a beauty. What a big buck. Oh. That's a beautiful deer.